Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have another nice game to share with you from the Top Chess Engine Championship Season 28 Premier Division, Round 18 game, played August 9th. This is one of the shorter games you'll find in the TCEC, only a 61 mover. On the white end, Leela Chess Zero, rated 3692, playing against KomodoDragon, rated 3620. Alright, with this one we have the Alekhine defense, and to be a bit more exact, we are looking at the 4 pawns attack. Now, we've yet to reach the start position for this game, just noting a thing or two about this opening, this moment in particular. Pressure on d4, now is not a good time to follow some general rule, this knights before bishops rule. If you bring the knight out to secure d4 in this position, that permits bishop g4 in one move. That pin is irritating. In fact, knight f3, bishop g4, it's already considered equal. All right, in this one, the bishop covers d4. Bishop cannot play to g4 in this case, so bishop f5 it is. Noting a difference between the knight development, the queen knight comes out first in case black is excited about some coordination on c2. We can cover that. e6, knight f3 only now, and move 9, bishop g4, second time the bishop has moved to get there. This is our start position. Now, these two have yet to play from this start position with colors reversed. That will be played later. The first move of this game is bishop e2. Bishop takes knight. And from here, Leela captures with the g pawn, recapturing with the piece, hangs c4. So g takes it is. Queen check, bishop block. Queen h6, c5, knight d5, a knight exchange, followed by this double attack, d5 and b7. There's a convenient defense. Cool move to pull off queenside castles. These two now covered. Follow up queen e3. And in this game, we see an early queen exchange. Queen takes queen it is from here. Now, if Komodo Dragon tries to maintain the queens, you really can't say that this queen is going to be any better than white's queen on e3. This is a very nice central post for the white queen. So I did test out a move, queen h3 in this position. She really doesn't have a great pick. These bishops can cover a lot of ground. Staring at both sides of the board here. The rook can take away many squares from the queen. Maybe even f4, bishop g4 can be an idea. Queen maybe tries to pivot here. I tested out this move if black tried to keep the queens on, and you can quickly run into trouble. This here being the trouble. An early pawn launch going right after the king. Knight takes b, queen b3, rook b1. There's going to be a problem there, right near that black king. So in this one, we have a queen exchange. And very early on, we can note a lot of positives for Leela. Multiple invasive pawns, bishop pair, and add this one to the list as well. Leela's central structure has been strengthened with the G pawn now converted to the F file. So E5 can be reinforced if need be. So let's see how Leela works with these advantages. G6, king D2. It's an endgame. Let the king play an active role. H5, rook G1, bishop H6, and an interesting moment here. We don't have a bishop exchange. F4 is played. Now, I run with Stockfish 17.1, and it does say you can run with the bishop exchange, play that position. This is, after all, the bad bishop being exchanged for this one, but Leela doesn't play it that way. F4 is played in this position. Now, why is this maybe another approach you can take? What are some things you can point to by ducking this exchange? Well, with the move F4, the bishop pair is maintained. That's nice. Also, given that Leela has this space, hey, let's keep more pieces on board. Leela has more room to maneuver. So F4 it is. In a way, this structure is going to do a very good job of restricting this bishop. And what possibilities does it have? It doesn't have these squares anymore. Has these handful, and that's about it. It doesn't really seem to be doing anything wonderful wherever it is located. All right, from here we have a knight reposition and the follow-up b4. I like these little details. You know, a move that takes advantage of the weakness of black's last move in this case. b4 no longer under control. Okay, let's squeeze the most out of that b pawn and roll. Grab even more space on the queen side. Follow up a6, a4, king d7, bishop f1, knight f5, and let me throw this position too as a pop quiz. How would you continue here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, in the game, we have king d3. Now, it certainly seemed like bishop h3 would be a nice idea. Throw the knight in a pin, maybe capture it, and double the pawns. On the surface, just at a quick glance, that may seem appealing. Not how Leela plays it. The king goes to d3 in this position. Why not go to h3? Well, here's the thing. If you exchange the bishop for this knight, it's going to be tricky to make any headway. So let's say in response to bishop h3, king e7 is played, and this capture occurs. Where are your entry points exactly? So these look, they're doubled and isolated the f pawns and isolated h pawn, but they cover a lot of important squares. And it's complemented well with this bishop, this better bishop in this case. So you really don't, plan on ever exchanging that light square bishop for a knight, at least on this f5 square. So how Leela plays it, no bishop h3, king d3, and now we see knight captures bishop. And we'll be working with what? Opposite color bishop position. Now if Komodo Dragon does not take the bishop in this position, let's say moves the king, now you can preserve this piece. Bishop backs off. Got the bishop pair still. This king is fantastic. Love this piece. Knight is miles away from bugging him. Bishop's certainly not going to bother the king. The rooks still looking for something to do. This is a wonderful position. The bishops can operate on both wings. They do a fantastic job in this position. Knight sitting pretty, but it's under control. So while black still has the chance, in other words, after king d3, the dark square bishop is swiped, and here we are. Opposite color bishop position. Let's see how to improve from here. We have c6, bishop d3. Doesn't really get better than that. This bishop functioning like a bishop, has two pawns, that's watching over a couple pawns. Let's see how this position opens up. Rook a8, king f3, you're out of any pin. Rook on h to e8. Rook g2. What move do you think is right around the corner after rook g2? Feel free to pause the video. What comes to mind for you? All right, I think for most players, when you see this move, you may be thinking, okay, this square has opened up and you go in this direction, but with this, with the rooks disjointed like this, do know that a battery can be formed in either direction. I just think in general, This happens more often, the queen rook sliding over towards the king side, so maybe we're drawn to that move first, but there's two ideas. Maybe this one, maybe that one. White is a moment away from a battery on either wing. Nice arrangement. Follow up king e7, h4. This pawn wasn't a contributor. Okay, takes away a square from the bishop on g5. Maybe you can now start to look forward to f5 pawn breaks. It's possible. f5, g5, there wouldn't be a possibility with the pawn on h4. All right, from here, rook h8. Difficult for black to do anything. Really just on your back foot, waiting for white to make progress. Rook on g to a2, gearing up for a b5 break. Rook h to f8. b5 it is. f6, pop quiz. How would you respond here? Feel free to pause the video. All right, apparently only one winning move. Leela plays it. We have e6. Now, this rook is ready to spring to life with the capture. Black's ready to coordinate on f4. The king is not going to feel comfortable if that's allowed. So e6 ensures the f-file does not spring open. The king will now feel comfortable, at least for a little while longer. Leela is buying time by playing in this way, by pitching this e6 pawn. Now it is not picked up in this position. What we have as a response is rook f to b8. What would happen if the pawn is picked up? You have your pick. It says you can resolve the tension in either way on the queen side or even capture on g6. I'm drawn to a capture on the queen side with this idea to get to the b file and enter. Uncomfortable, days ahead for the black king. You can contest it, but white is there, takes over control of the file. What we're looking at soon, very active versus a passive black rook. This c pawn is ready to fall at any moment once that rook is active. So picking up the e6 pawn, not a good idea. We have rook f to b8. Preparing for what exactly? Well, preparing for either capture. Black saying if you're going to take, okay, the b file opens up, I'm already there. Follow up, bishop takes g6, f5, and let me throw this position to as a pop quiz. What is your move here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, are you on team bishop takes f, bishop takes h, or none of the above? All right, in this game, we see none of the above. b6 is played. Now, if you take either pawn, you run into trouble. This is worst of all. Rook f8, the very thing you were trying to prevent earlier. With e6, the activation of the rook on the f-file. Yeah, big problem soon for white on f4. If you take on h5, it's not as bad, but there's still this type of activity right around the corner for black, targeting d4, as well as rook h8, the skewer on the h-file. So, no captures. b6 instead, and what a pawn this one is. Now, this one is only 2 steps away from queening. Yes, there's still an obstacle, but this obstacle can be influenced in a few ways. And once this point is captured, I mean, what kind of value do you put on that b6 pawn? Very dangerous idea, b6 in this position. Follow up, bishop g7. The king should have the responsibility to defend d4. We see just that. There's nothing happening on the queen side after b6. It is shut down. We're going to have some regrouping. Rooks need to go elsewhere. And in this case, it's the g file. Rook f6. King d3 is played here. It says you could also play bishop f7. That's a winning way. Just defending the pawn. All right, in this one, king d3, rook h8 is played. If rook takes pawn, there is bishop takes f5 with a double attack. We have rook h8, bishop f7 only now, bishop h6, rook's doubled. Leela says, fine, take the f-pawn. I am not afraid of your passed f-pawn. Bishop g8 follows. Bishop h6, another pop quiz. What is your move here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, this continuation really emphasizes the strength of this b6 pawn that was established many moves ago. The rooks now enter an exchange sacrifice with this idea. Now, before going in for this, there is a key line you have to calculate well. In this position, Komodo Dragon goes to d8. What's the story? If the king went to f8 and there is now this double attack, the only winning path would be with rook takes b, rook check, and to play this rook down position, you are winning here with one move. If the rook can get to the back rank, it will successfully stop both passed pawns, but it can't, because in this position there is e7, and this paves the way for the dangerous b pawn to promote next. Beautiful line. Rook e6, b7, rook takes pawn, and there you go. b8 equals queen. Okay, how it is played out in this one after the exchange sacrifice on g7, king d8 played, rook takes b, rook g6 is played. Okay, rook takes bishop. If we could win the rook down position, we could certainly win. Not down, a rook. So that's going nowhere. The try here is with rook g6, bishop f7. I tested out another move rather than rook g6. If the king steps over like this, there is a check. King here, there's a check. And you could start running with the b pawn. If king b8 in this position, there's rook g7. Next up, you can look forward to e7. If rook f8 in this position, bishop f7. Look at this. This arrangement right here, pawn on e6, bishop on f7, kills both rooks. White has all day to enter. Maybe like this, maybe like that, pushing the pawn shortly. Okay. The approach by Komodo Dragon at this stage here, after the b pawn is picked up, rook g6, bishop f7, check, king e2, and from here we have rook g4. A skewer occurs next. If black interferes with that, tries to save the rook, I mean, how do you even save the rook? Rook f8 is not saving the rook. e7, crushing. If you play rook h8, this is crushing. It's a mate in 3. e7, rook c7, and promotion for mate. So, tough days ahead for this rook. This rook is way too good on the 7th rank, cutting off the king. 2 passers, bishop. No coordination for black. This rook and pawn, not dangerous enough. This king is not going to break a sweat. From here, it is rook g4. There we go. White now up material. And the least interesting part of these games, the mopping up phase. This one goes straight to checkmate. And let's see what that looks like. As mentioned, a 61 mover, rook h8, mate. Anyhow, your thoughts with this one? Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.